Welcome to Theology of Christian Schooling. My name is Dr. Jeff Horner. I will be your instructor for this course. You may email me at Jeffrey, Jeffrey, .Horner, Horner, @point.edu. Welcome to Theology of Christian Schooling, Week 4. This week we will be discussing two issues regarding Christian schooling. One is the theology of discipline, how and why we do it from biblical standpoints. And the other is ecclesiology and our theology of Christian schooling. We will unpack what these terms mean and how they apply to Christian schooling as we go ahead. As we unpack the theology of discipline, we need to understand the purposes and motivations of discipline. How and why do we enforce discipline from a biblical perspective? Some sub-questions that emerge from these overarching questions are, how does discipline form a person? And then how does discipline form a social group? And then how does discipline form the culture of a school or a broader culture in general? Secondary set of sub-questions. To what extent do school rules enforce cultural rather than biblical standards? This is important to understand, for in our cultural formation, we need to be careful not to conflate biblical standards with cultural preferences. Third question is, how can our discipline policies emphasize our theological presuppositions? If we believe that man is fallen, how does that change our discipline policies and expectations versus people who would believe that mankind is basically good? How does the fact that mankind is created in the image of God emphasize different discipline priorities? And our fourth question, what messages are conveyed through the imposition of discipline? What message is conveyed to the student receiving the discipline? What message is conveyed to parents of the student receiving the discipline? What message is conveyed to the larger community of the student's peers and the larger school community? And then finally, what message is conveyed to students who are not receiving discipline for various infractions? These all are part of a school's discipline policies and need to be considered in the school's discipline handbooks and other policies. Our second major topic of this week is ecclesiology in Christian schooling. One of the major questions involved in this is, how similar is a Christian school to a Christian church? Both provide forms of Christian education. For example, Sunday school curriculum and other types of instructional mechanisms, formal and non-formal, for church members fall under the category of Christian education, but are not the same as Christian schooling. What is the qualitative difference between Christian schooling and Christian churches? I've enumerated three just for our discussion purposes in the forums this week. One is, Christian church members do not pay tuition. Tithing is not the same as paying tuition for education. Also, the level of exclusivity. Generally speaking, churches are welcoming for new members to come in and out of the doors at any point, whereas Christian schools don't have the ability for people to float through and sample the school. Usually there is a financial commitment required of somebody who would like to put their children into a Christian school. And then third, outreach. Is a Christian school a tool of evangelism or not? Different churches and different Christian schools have come to different conclusions on that. The question of ecclesiology and what is the difference between a church and a school also impacts how we see and understand discipline. For example, how do questions of church discipline, which talk about things in the Matthew 18 principle of going to a brother to confront him, then taking one or two witnesses, and then going ahead and excommunicating or disfellowshipping them, depending on your church tradition's terminology, a person from a church, with the anticipation that perhaps they will return and be restored after discipline. Whereas in a Christian school, a student who is ejected from the school or expelled may never return again. So therefore, to what extent should questions of church discipline interact with Christian school policies? Churches typically do not disfellowship people for chewing gum or for the types of socks or dress code violations that they might interact in contradistinction from a Christian school. So the question is, should there be a distinction between questions of church discipline, clear moral failings, which would result in someone being disfellowshipped, versus cultural preferences in a Christian school? I look forward to seeing how these questions are addressed within the forums as we go forward. We have now passed the halfway point. I want to take a moment to pause and celebrate that moment with everyone. We are beyond halfway through our course together, and we are on the downhill slope to week 7. Please continue to do good work, to speak charitably, to give everyone a fair hearing, to think and articulate your own thoughts with precision, and I look forward to seeing us continue to learn together.